With her radiant smile and sparkling eyes, June Allyson captivated millions of hearts, becoming Hollywood's most beloved girl next door. On screen, she was the embodiment of innocence and optimism, a flawless image that the public completely trusted. But behind that perfect exterior, June Allyson's life was a canvas with dark shades, indelible scars from personal tragedies and unspoken pains. The time has come for the true story of June Allyson's broken heart to be revealed, moving beyond the stage's spotlight so that we may understand, that even the most beautiful smiles can conceal the deepest, most private sorrows. The tumultuous marriage with Dick Powell. In the 1940s and 50s, Hollywood's The Girl Next Door, June Allyson was sweet and innocent with her golden hair, radiant smile, and clear eyes. She performed in almost 50 films, playing sweet, optimistic characters like Little Women, The Glenn Miller Story, and Executive Suite. June's good energy, loveliness, and simplicity made everyone feel close and protective of her. Despite the spotlight and glittering films, her life was a sequence of hardships and losses few knew about. June Allyson arrived in Hollywood with hope and a clean soul. In the bright lights of the film capital, she met Dick Powell, a man over 20 years her senior, who had 2 failed marriages and life experiences June, in her naivete, had never known. June's life was filled with tears and struggles after their first glance on Best Foot Forward in 1943, which started a fatal romance. June was pulled to Powell's charm and expertise due to her innocence and yearning to be loved. She saw him as mature and a protector and guide. Love grew swiftly, but MGM mogul Louis B. Mayer, who considered June a priceless asset, a symbol of purity, fiercely opposed it. Mayer worried that marrying a divorced guy would ruin June's girl-next-door reputation. June defied everything for scorching youth love. Against advice, she married Powell in 1945. Hollywood's new golden couple, the naive ingenue and the attractive gentleman, was popular. They featured in newspapers and at opulent events, and everyone thought June was happy forever. No one knew a tragedy was seething beneath that dazzling surface. Early in their marriage, cracks appeared. Dick Powell adored June, but was a womanizer. June's trust eroded progressively as rumors of his extramarital encounters grew. Imagine a young June Allyson, full of love and marriage ideals, discovering that her trusted husband was cheating. She felt stabbed every time she heard rumors or saw his evasiveness. A series of repeated episodes. June tried to ignore it, make excuses, and think it was simply temporary weakness. She loved Powell so deeply she would bear things another lady couldn't. Powell's philandering was insulting to his wife, who had devoted herself to him. June had to endure whispers and murmurs behind her back due to her gentleness and dislike of gossip. She felt deceived by her husband and her life. Not envy, but trust, breakdown, and the loss of a joyful, full family. Every curious look or whispered comment from co-workers or friends pierced her heart. Powell was controlling. He controlled June's profession, wealth, and personal life. June, who was soft and dependent on her husband, lost herself. She was insecure, afraid, and always worried about losing her only man. On The Girl Next Door, this invisible pressure made her a wife living in insecurity and terror. Powell boldly structured June's life without her consent, such as buying a house without letting her decorate or barring her from staying home to care for their children for fear she would lose her acting passion. June's self-esteem and security declined with these modest behaviors. She wanted love, but was disappointed and betrayed in her marriage. The catastrophe peaked when June was exhausted. June Allyson divorced in 1961 after 16 years of agony. June, who valued family and stability, struggled with this decision. This was a sign of mental fatigue and a cry for aid from a wounded heart. The split revealed major fractures in a seemingly flawless marriage. The public was astonished, but only June realized her burden. June had a rare chance to reflect during her separation. She reflected on everything she sacrificed and lost in this relationship. In those days, she was divided between her love for Powell and her wish to live a life without dishonesty and control. The independence joy didn't endure. June liked Dick Powell and may have feared loneliness. June's decision was also impacted by society, others, and their joint children. Few months later, they reconciled. This was an act of love, hope, and weakness, dread of facing life alone. June hoped Powell would change, and her love would repair the gaps. She stayed trusting the guy who had hurt her again, hoping for a new start and tranquility. Their reconciliation revealed their relationship's intricacy. June liked Dick Powell despite his imperfections. She tried to fix things, believe in a miracle, and accept what other women wouldn't. Unfortunately, June and Powell were unable to change their fate. Dick Powell died of lung cancer in January 1963, 2 years after their reconciliation. His death shocked June and was her final loss. Powell was her lifelong love, whom she had loved, cared for, and endured for nearly 2 decades, despite their turbulent and sad marriage. Imagine June Allyson, used to Powell's shadow, meeting pure emptiness. Lost her husband, she felt sadness for a lost love and disappointment for losing a vital part of her life. Powell's death left an irreparable vacuum, notwithstanding his emotional wounds. The agony of losing a loved one was compounded by the memories of years of perseverance, silent tears, and sacrifices for this relationship. June wondered if her pain was worth it, and if she could find happiness after her soul-wrenching scars. Even though she sought to protect her family, she certainly suffered from regret and sadness. June Allyson was weak, lost, and had to start over after Powell's death. After losing her husband, she lost part of herself and her turbulent past. This catastrophe changed June and made her strive to find herself again in the years that followed. June felt lonely and disoriented as she realized that despite the agony, that relationship had been her life for nearly 2 decades. June was alone with pain and despair after the center fell, facing an unknown future. The whirlwind search for happiness. June. Allyson felt like a rudderless boat in a huge ocean after Dick Powell's death. Powell left her with too much grief and emptiness, making her desire for a new haven and an embrace to heal. June's following search for happiness was a flurry of hurtful relationships. June Allyson suddenly married Dick Powell's barber, Calvin Anderson, a few months after his death. This brief marriage in May 1963 surprised the public. June's hasty attempt to fill Powell's gap was seen by many as a desperate act. June was a weak woman then. She wanted affection and protection, and Anderson may have been a comfort and support. Love cannot be developed quickly on loneliness and instability. Cracks appeared in their relationship rapidly. Anderson lacked Powell's experience and maturity, and his shadow on June's heart was too large for him to fill. A month later, in June 1963, she divorced Calvin Anderson. June was further heartbroken by this rushed and broken union. She recognized that finding happiness was not a race, and replacing a lost love with a new one would only cause more grief. June's fragile mental state after losing her spouse and the hard reality that love cannot be imposed were shown by this brief marriage. In 1976, June married Glenn Maxwell again after her Anderson divorce. This relationship was more complicated and stormy than her previous ones. Many accounts say Maxwell, a lesser-known actor and film producer, exploited June's popularity and money. June had many troubles during her marriage till 1993. Maxwell was an emotional abuser and heavy drinker. He misappropriated June's funds, inflicting financial hardship. The naive girl next door suffered again in secret. June Allyson, one of Hollywood's highest-paid stars, lost her wealth due to her husband's lavish spending. This connection cost June money and soul. She felt used, insecure, and anxious. June worked hard to keep her marriage, perhaps because she feared loneliness or hoped Maxwell would change. However, Maxwell's selfishness and personal troubles drove June to despair. She went through a dark phase where old wounds were reopened by new ones. June's soft heart was severely exploited in Maxwell's marriage, teaching her about trusting others and love. Finally, June decided to divorce Maxwell in 1993 after 17 years of painful coexistence. This was a difficult but necessary decision to free her from a toxic relationship so she could find peace and regain control of her life. After the storms and tempests in love, it seemed June Allyson would never find complete happiness again. However, fate smiled upon her in her later years. In 1999, at the age of 82, June married Dr. William T. Quirk. Unlike the men before him, William Quirk was a calm, loving, and understanding man. He was not a figure in the entertainment industry, not seeking fame or profit from June. He was a sincere life partner, bringing June the peace and stability she had longed for. In her final years, June Allyson finally found a safe haven, a place where she could truly be herself without having to hide her wounds. Quirk brought her trust, respect, and unconditional love. It was a love not loud or passionate like in her youth, but deep and enduring, like a cool spring watering June's soul after many barren years. The marriage to William Quirk was a happy ending for a heart that had endured too many storms. It proved that even after ultimate losses and suffering, happiness can still be found, as long as we never stop hoping and opening our hearts. June Allyson went through a long and tearful journey to find peace, and finally, she was deservedly rewarded. Unrevealed Personal Tragedies. June Allyson dedicated her entire career to building the image of a pure, innocent, lovely, and optimistic actress. This was an image that MGM, especially Louis B. Mayer, meticulously crafted and protected. June was typecast in innocent, cheerful roles, bringing joy to audiences in the post-World War II era. However, the price of this perfection was incredibly high. June had to live under strict studio control. Every aspect of her life, from her clothes, hairstyle, demeanor, to even her personal relationships, was monitored and directed. The girl next door image did not allow June to make mistakes, have moments of weakness, or exhibit the more complex facets of an ordinary person. She was stripped of the right to be herself, the right to express negative emotions, or even the right to age naturally. The pressure to maintain this flawless image created an enormous psychological burden. Try to imagine a woman who always had to smile, always appear cheerful, even when her heart was breaking because her husband was unfaithful or she was being exploited. June could not openly lament, could not show her weakness, because that would shatter the image she and the studio had built. She had to swallow her tears, pretend everything was fine, while inside there was a storm. This emotional repression over time caused deep damage to her soul. It made her feel lonely, even when surrounded by the spotlight and millions of fans. Furthermore, being typecast in one kind of role also limited June's artistic development. She yearned to try more challenging, deeper roles, but Hollywood did not allow her to do so. Her career gradually stagnated as audiences and producers could not see June Allyson escape the shadow of the girl next door. This was not just an artistic regret, but also a great disappointment for a talented actress like her. The continuous pressures from a tragic personal life and career burdens seriously affected June Allyson's health. She had to undergo several psychological treatments to cope with depression and anxiety. Although details about specific illnesses were not widely disclosed, The cracks in her emotional life and career certainly caused severe physical and mental consequences. June struggled with alcoholism for a long time, a way for her to find oblivion to escape a painful reality she could not share with anyone. This addiction not only affected her health, but also weakened her will, making it even harder for her to overcome difficulties. This is a dark, rarely mentioned aspect of June Allyson's story, but it is proof of the destructive extent of the pain and pressure she had to endure. In addition, June also faced other health issues in her later years, including joint problems and age-related illnesses. Although these diseases are natural, one can see that a life full of turmoil, anxiety, and sorrow certainly contributed to the faster erosion of her health. June had to endure physical pain, paralleled by indelible scars in her soul. June's unhappy marital life also deeply affected her relationship with her children, Pamela and Richard. Although June loved her children dearly, the instability in their family, especially Dick Powell's infidelity, and later the issues with Glenn Maxwell, created a less than stable environment for the children. June's frequent confrontations with her own problems, coupled with the pressure to maintain her public image, likely made it difficult for her to fully devote attention and time to her children as she wished. Children are often very sensitive to the atmosphere in the family, and Pamela and Richard surely sensed their mother's tension and suffering. June had to brace herself as the pillar, simultaneously hiding her pain and trying to protect her children from the dark sides of her marriage. After Powell's death and her subsequent marriages, June had to bear the responsibility of raising her children alone for many periods. This was a great burden, especially as she also had to struggle with personal health and financial issues. The relationship with her children might have had challenging moments, but June's love for them was undeniable. She tried her best to be a good mother even when she was fighting her inner demons. These personal tragedies and professional pressures shaped June Allyson not just as a screen star, but as a real person with indelible scars. They show that even the most famous, most radiant people carry unspoken pains, burdens that only they can feel. June Allyson is a testament to incredible resilience, but also a reminder of the price of fame and the tragedies hidden behind the spotlight. June Allyson will forever be remembered not only for her classic roles or charming smile, but also for her incredible resilience and courage in facing hidden tragedies. Her life is a reminder that empathy and understanding are essential, because everyone, no matter how radiant their appearance may be, carrying invisible burdens that we are unaware of. Are you surprised to learn about these lesser-told aspects of June Allyson's life? Do you feel empathy for what she went through? Please leave a comment below and share your thoughts on this story. Don't forget to like the video if you found this story meaningful, subscribe to the channel to not miss other fascinating stories about Hollywood behind the scenes, and hit the bell to receive notifications whenever we have a new video.